All right, everyone, the time is 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time, so we're going to go ahead and start our session. I want to start off by thanking you for joining us this evening. Tonight, we will be discussing the online and part-time graduate programs in systems engineering offered through the Whiting School of Engineering at Johns Hopkins University. My name is Cheryl Williams, and I am the Assistant Director of Recruitment and Marketing here at the Whiting School. With me tonight is Dr. David Flanagan. Dave is the Vice Chair for our Systems Engineering program. He teaches a number of courses, including System Conceptual Design, and mentors students through completing their capstone projects. He is a member of the principal professional staff at the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, where he has worked as a systems engineer for 18 years. At APL, he works with government, industry, and academic organizations to plan and execute analytical studies in support of advanced concepts and integrated acquisition strategies. He is also a graduate of our program, having earned his Master of Science in Systems Engineering at Johns Hopkins in 2007. He earned his PhD in Systems Engineering at George Mason University in 2013. For tonight's presentation, we'll start off with an introduction to Johns Hopkins Engineering. Next, we'll discuss with you our online and part-time degree programs in Systems Engineering. Then we'll review some helpful information on tuition and payment options, talk about next steps and important dates, and we'll end with a live question and answer session. So if you have any questions at any point in the presentation, please go ahead and type them into the questions tab on your control panel. If you're joining us via a cell phone or a tablet, simply select the question mark to access the question section, and we'll address all questions at the end of the presentation. So why study engineering at Johns Hopkins University? Johns Hopkins University was founded in 1876 as the nation's first research university. The School of Engineering opened its doors in 1913. And in 1915, it began offering part-time engineering coursework as night classes for technical workers. Since then, we've grown to offer more than 20 master's programs that can be completed part-time. 18 of these programs can be completed entirely online. Our programs are designed by people who thoroughly understand your industry. We like to say that our programs are for engineers by engineers. Our faculty are all expert and working engineers, and our faculty and instructional designers construct new and update existing coursework every year so that it includes the most up-to-date information. In addition to our part-time programs, the Whiting School of Engineering has over 25 research centers and institutes. This includes our strong partnership with the Applied Physics Laboratory. We also offer full-time programs such as bachelor's, master's, and PhD programs. These programs are in residence at our Homewood campus in Baltimore. Our online and part-time programs are led by respected senior engineers from our Applied Physics Laboratory and faculty from our full-time programs. We are ranked in the top 20 best online graduate engineering programs by US News and World Report. We are also ranked 5th for best online graduate computer information technology programs. And of all the schools that are included in these rankings, we actually have the largest online part-time student population. So not only will you have lots of fellow students going through a similar learning experience, but these rankings really speak to the quality of our programs regardless of our size, and our school is experienced and well-equipped to help you navigate graduate education as an online and part-time student. The degree that you earn studying with us part-time is of the same quality as our full-time degree programs. Your diploma will not say online or part-time. You are eligible and highly encouraged to participate in commencement. And as a graduate, you will be one of more than 28,000 Whiting School alumni and will join our esteemed international alumni community. So that is an overview of who we are and the value of our programs. Now Dave will talk to us more about our programs in systems engineering. Dave?
So this is so we have something to be proud of, that we're ABET accredited, and so we're both the largest system engineering master's program and I think we are in the country, and also to receive our ABET accreditation, and also the first at a civilian university. There's only two others that we're aware of for systems engineering, and both of those are government schools. And so what that means to you is it depends if your undergraduate was from an ABET accredited university, and this is limited to the engineering undergraduate. So electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and again, from an undergraduate program. So if you were like me, I was a physics major. If you're not in an engineering program, you would just be in a Master of Science instead of the Master of Systems Engineering. But the program itself right now currently there's no difference. There's no difference in the uh, courses or program of study. It's just if you were ABET accredited from an undergraduate, you can continue that with this program here. So this is our student body, and as you can see, it's evenly split between in-person, online, and partners. So partnerships are some selected companies that Johns Hopkins University has a relationship with, and will also teach the same materials, same course materials, but just to that individual company there. But all the program material is the same, and then the rest of ours are online and in person. There's probably a lot more online now, but just as the time goes on, and we're able to spread out across the country and reach a lot more students than previously. About 10 years ago, before we switched to online programs, would just be limited to the DC area. So again, we've got a lot of um, across the nation, especially with our military students, different time zones, as well as our international students as well. Okay, and so the programs, so like I'd mentioned, are MSE or MS. So again, the MSE would only be applicable if you had that ABET accredited undergraduate degree in an engineering bachelor's program. And if not, then your others would be in that Master of Science in Systems Engineering. So both these two are really our core programs. These are 10 courses. We'll get into the details of what those are. But I'd say about 95% of our students are in that first two blocks, in it for a master's. There are also some others, and again, not as many, but equally as important in our programs. One is our graduate certificates. So these are typically students that already have a master's, and you're just continuing on for some additional education. So the graduate certificate is only 6 courses, and we'll actually get into what those are. So at the end, you get a certificate, you do not get a master's degree. If you want to continue that, you do the other 4. And also in a smaller percentage, really smaller percentage, is the postmaster's certificate. And again, that's for students that already have a a degree in typically it would be kind of like a systems engineering. So say as an example, so from another program, um, from another school, and then just continuing on with that extra education. And those are generally 4 classes, and it's more of the advanced classes like enterprise system engineering, system of systems engineering, those types of areas in a little bit more advanced sort of subject matter. Okay, so that's generally kind of the breakdown for our programs and what students take. So our admissions requirements, and I do the admissions and look at every one of the applicants, and we look at it and we'll consider it as sort of a whole person sort of approach here. So it's not just your transcript, it's not just your resume, but it's everything. And the reason being is that system engineering is kind of a practitioner type of profession. So again, it feeds off a lot of the experiences and also the application of that. So again, this is a typical sort of candidates that would have a science or engineering degree GPA, higher than 3.0, and at least one or two, years of relevant work experience in the field, doing systems engineering types. Now, that doesn't mean that if you don't have any of these, you shouldn't apply. I get these questions all the time of, hey, I'm an IT, I'm a computer science, I'm a physics, I'm a math, or with some of our military students, um, it's not as as cut and dried as what we have here. And again, it all depends. So the standard answer that I give everyone is, hey, show me your resume and show me your unofficial transcript, and then I can advise you further, because it does look at we do look at all that, definitely a lot of the experience, and if you had grades, but that was a decade or two ago, your experience would probably be a little bit more weighted to that. Conversely, on our younger students that just come out of undergraduate, say, um, you don't have as much work experience, and naturally your GPA would be a little bit more weighted to there. And so that's kind of the process and the thought process that we kind of approach towards admissions. And like you see here, no GRE. There's other schools that take the GRE or require it, but we do not. And so this is our degree structure. So again, it's 10 courses. Typically, we ask for about 5 years. That's sort of the timeline. And again, if you have to exceed that, because life happens. People they get deployed, they move. They have different transitions in life. Generally, we like to try to keep that at a 5 year or below, and only because the state of the practice here outpaces it. So we don't want you to have the 10-year program, and what you learned 10 years ago is really not as applicable right now. So that's where we're looking at that 5 year, and that's a comfortable pace. We have 3 semesters: a summer, fall, and spring. Um, so technically, you could take one class every type of semester and zip through it pretty quickly, or take 2 classes per semester and zip through it even quicker. Um, then again, so that's sort of our nominal sort of time limits. So we have core classes, we have electives. Now we are calling them tracks, and you'll see what we're looking at from there. And then either our project or our thesis. So that's kind of the core elements of our degree. And so for that, we'll actually go into each one of these. So our core classes, and this is required for all programs, whether it's an MS or an MSE. So these are our 6 classes. So the first 2 are really the introduction to both systems engineering, and then again, because it's tied pretty closely to our technical management and project management sort of roots with systems engineering. So you have your technical and your project. So these first 2 classes are sort of the foundation courses. Software is also something that's new that we've made a required class, because we recognize that software is becoming more and more embedded, more and more important within our systems engineering. So you can't just say it's just hardware and software is separate. No, it's all integrated, and so that's what systems engineers for the future and in the present need to be able to incorporate both the hardware and the software. And finally, the last 3 courses are intended to look at each part of the life cycle and go in a lot deeper. So our introduction to systems engineering, that's sort of very broad. So it reaches the entire systems engineering life cycle, all the way from requirements all the way to deployment and disposal, but very, very thin in depth. Uh, these 3 classes, the last 3 classes, revisit the life cycle at each discrete point and go into a lot more depth. Conceptual design: what are my requirements? What are my concepts? What are my initial architectures? Design and integration: now that I've got some different components, how do I integrate them? How do I design them? How do I make them from components into subsystems into systems? And finally, test and evaluation: how do I test each part of the system and make sure that it's good to go before you send it out into the field or into the real world. So these 6 core courses also are the 6 classes if you're wanting to take a graduate certificate and stop here at these 6 classes. Beyond that, what we have now is called tracks, and really the tracks can be thought of as uh, guidance for your electives, but not being overly prescriptive. And what we mean by that is that so you've got your core classes, your 6 core classes. Depending if you take the project or the thesis. So the project is 1 course, the thesis is 2 courses. So that leaves you with either 2 or 3 electives based on what you take at the end. These tracks, so there's no requirement to specifically fit yourself into 1 track. We've made some changes recently in just recognizing it gives the student a little bit more flexibility in terms of, hey, if I want to take a human systems class, but not completely focus in on it, but then also maybe a cybersecurity and then a modeling and simulation class, just because that's possibly a professional interest, personal interest, the scheduling is right, the instructor is familiar with them. Any of those reasons, that gives you more flexibility to be able to take these different electives. So within each of these tracks, we have in our course catalog and on our website a listing of classes that are in those tracks that are offered for if you want a little bit more detail in more formal knowledge in cybersecurity, as an example, then you've got the 5 to 7 classes that you're able to kind of pick and choose, depending on what looks good for you or how that helps your career. And so these are 6 different types of tracks. Think of it sort of as groupings of different types of subjects and domains. Okay. So finally, at the capstone, either the project or the thesis, and this is sort of the culmination of as you went through your different classes, you've learned your different skills and domain knowledge of systems engineering, and then you're finally able to apply it to a topic of your choice. So the project, it's most popular. I'm going to say about 95% will opt to do the project, and they're both self-paced, and it's I'll say it's completely different from what you had in your first 9 classes. 9 classes, you had the materials, you had the schedule, you went through the assignments, and you finished on a time within the semester. The project, it's totally different. It's all individual. It's all up to you. So you pick your project, you pick your what you want to look at, how you're able to pick your stakeholders, develop some requirements, develop some architecture, perform some trade studies, perform some test planning, manage your schedule, manage your risk, and it's really all individual. There's no class, there's no formal class. You're given a project mentor, but they don't hold you to your schedule. You set your schedule, and you give your assignments and your products to the mentor to be able to look at, review. There may be some rework back and forth, and then the final output is a final report. So this is, think of it a pretty big binder of all your materials, and then a 1-hour final presentation. So that's the project. The thesis, think of that as it's a taste of what you'd look at if you were considering a doctorate program. And so it kind of gives you an idea of building a committee, building a research topic, figuring out what you want to be able to do in that area, do your actual research, do some original research here, write it up, and then as you're defending that to your committee, and these are sort of two different semesters. The first semester, I think it's the proposal, and the second semester, it's your actual work. And your product is really ideally oriented at this peer-reviewed paper. And so that's again, it kind of gives you a taste of what it's like to be a doctoral student, but by no means is it if you're thinking about a PhD program, you have to do the thesis. Not true. When I went through the program, I went through the project side, understood the project, and that was independent enough to be able to then get a good feeling for what it takes to do it at the next level. So again, kind of wrapping this up with the program. So this is just an example of what you could expect from a sample program. So in this example, we take the systems track. So the first 6 classes, here's our required classes that we go through. And then for electives, because we've done the project, now we've picked 3 different other classes in terms of enterprise systems, systems engineering, deployed systems. So this is after it's already in the field. What are you looking at in terms of upgrades, in terms of rework, in terms of refurbishment, and then some metrics modeling and simulation. So just as an example before we do the project. So there's a couple different ways that you can take classes. So the on-site is just exactly what that means. So it's on-site. You go to a live class. We'll show you in a few minutes where you can take those classes if you're in the DC area. Typically, it's 4:30 to about 7:15, so almost not quite 3 hours. Once a week. Generally, it's Monday through Thursdays in those locations there, and it's live. You go to class. You do your work. You do some teamwork. You do your assignments. So that's on a regular schedule. Online, it's a little different. So generally they're recorded lectures. You log in sort of asynchronously along the way. So think YouTube. So you pull down the lectures. You can download them offline. So if you got a long airplane flight, you download those. Watch them as many times as you'd like. Do your assignments. They're all in the tool we call Blackboard to be able to submit your assignments, get feedback, grading. Again, it's teamwork over the online world, so the virtual world there. So again, that is some challenges as well to be able to work with your online partners and students to be able to do that. But that's kind of reality for systems engineering. For the online modality. And then again, so the online versus live, that only means that you don't have to take everything online, or you don't have to take everything live. You can do a mix. So you can choose if there's a semester where you want to go online, perfectly fine. So this is the different 2 locations right now for on-site. The Applied Physics Laboratory has the majority of the on-site or live classes. We're in Laurel, so halfway between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. If you're in the Southern Maryland area, down by the Naval Air Station, Patuxent River, this is where you are. And we have a subset of classes. Generally, our core classes will be down there, just because we recognize that's a larger concentration of students and also practitioners. So between those, you also have online with your, and again, you can take those anywhere. And then you see that VL, so that means virtual live. So this is something that's relatively new for us. We've adopted this from a couple of different programs that have used it a bit more. So how virtual live works is that if you still want that, that sense of community, but you're just, you're not possibly in this area. So it's a little hard to drive each week to Maryland if you live in California, as an example. So, but you have the virtual live capability. So what does that mean? So you're in a classroom. The instructor has a webcam. You're seeing the classroom and you're going through it live. And so you kind of show up as, think of it as almost as like a VTC, a video teleconference. And so you're possibly one of the icons on the screen that can see you, either your webcam or maybe it's just a virtual avatar, and you can participate sort of live. So again, just the requirements are to be able to have a quality internet connection to be able to view the materials. and then you can participate as much as you can. So again, this kind of gives you that real-time feedback like you would in a real live class. Hey, I'm writing something down, and it's like, hey, wait a minute, can you explain that again? Now, an online session, you don't have that sort of feedback. You can just rewind the tape, so to speak. But virtual live, you're able to do that. And then if you're not able to be there virtually, in the actual class, these are recorded, and so it'll just be similar to an online class where afterwards the instructor will upload the recording, and then you can retrieve that as needed. So those are a couple of different modalities that give you the opportunity to learn. Okay, and then again, our faculty highlights here, like Cheryl said, it's by engineers for engineers. And so with system engineering program, it's one of the larger ones within the Whiting School of Engineering. So again, you can see how many instructors we have. And again, we've got a lot of different backgrounds because systems engineering is that multidisciplinary way. And so it's you're able to take different backgrounds. I've got different C stories to tell you. I've got different perspectives to tell you. Generally with the with the live classes, we'll have 2 instructors, just again to be able to give you different perspectives. For online, it's generally just one instructor there. The majority, but not all of them, come from the Applied Physics Laboratory because literally we're right across the street from where we teach. And so again, you can see different different aspects of this is just a sampling of what the Applied Physics Laboratory has to offer in terms of prosthetic limbs. And again, we were one of the leaders there, and to be able to actually control that with your mind, this prosthetic limb. A couple of years ago, you saw Pluto go, or the satellite go to Pluto. That's New Horizons, and then also on the right, also some jamming techniques, electronic attack, electronic protection type of techniques to be able to, counter radio-controlled explosive devices, over in the war zones to protect our troops. So these are just a sampling of what APL can bring. All of these, you can argue, has a strong systems engineering background to be able to develop the requirements, develop your pieces, integrate them, test them, and then actually deploy them. So you can see we're pretty seasoned instructor base, and a lot of us have been teaching for quite a while. And again, we do it because we have that passion to be able to give that, impart that knowledge to the students. And then again, about every 3 to 4 years, we will refresh our classes again, just to make sure that we're keeping up with the state of the practice. Okay, and then finally, this is our textbook for the introduction class here. And again, this was born back from Dr. Kozikov that had kind of founded a lot of our principles in our program, and actually where we teach is at the Kozikov Center. And so this is the 2nd edition, and we're currently rewriting it for the 3rd edition, which I think has been an international bestseller at the time of the 2nd edition. So looking forward to we're looking forward to rewriting the 3rd edition.
Thank you, Dave. Now we'd like to share some information with you to help you take this next step. Some of the most common questions that our admission teams gets from prospective students is, what is the tuition and what resources are available to help me pay? So here it is. Our tuition is currently $4,250 a course. Our courses are 3 credits each, so this is the total tuition cost for each 3-credit course. Because our tuition fluctuates every year due to inflation, we encourage students to budget $45,000 total for their degree. This cost may exclude books and materials. The cost of books and materials really depends upon the coursework that you register for. But in addition to to tuition, there are no fees that you'll have to pay on a regular basis. So for example, we don't charge any technology fees. Our online and part-time students do not pay, for example, like a student union fee as you would as a full-time student. We do not charge an application fee for applicants to this program, to our online and part-time programs. The only fee that our students pay is a fee at the end of their course of study with us, known as a graduate's fee. You have a variety of financing options available to you depending on your personal circumstance. I really encourage you to investigate and to take advantage of any education benefits that your employer may offer. Interesting fact, the majority of our students are actually attending our programs using employer tuition assistance or tuition benefits. We unfortunately do not have any scholarships available for our online and part-time students, but there are other associations and organizations that do. For example, the National Consortium for Graduate Degrees for Minorities in Engineering, otherwise known as the National GEM Consortium, offers fellowship programs, and rules, requirements, and application instructions can be found on GEM's website. The application for these fellowship programs is open from July 1st to November the 13th. If you are a U.S. citizen or a qualifying U.S. resident, you may be eligible to use financial aid. The financial aid that's available for graduate students is largely unsubsidized loans. So similar to that, you can of course finance your degree through a personal loan. And if you are active duty or retired military and you have veterans benefits, you can of course utilize these to finance your education. We do have a number of active duty and retired military enrolled in our online and part-time programs. If you are planning on using veterans benefits to finance your education, here are some things to keep in mind. The URL that you see on your screen right now has some great information on what forms you need to complete and submit in order to use veterans benefit at Hopkins. That URL, ep.jhu.edu/veterans. The point of contact for veteran students is Nancy Carr, who is, she is incredibly helpful and responsive. You can find her contact information by visiting this URL. For students who are using Chapter 33 post 9/11 benefits, the Department of Veteran Affairs sets an annual cap on tuition for private schools. That cap is $23,671.94, and this is for an entire academic school year. So it includes the fall, spring, and summer semesters, and it renews every fall. So we just talked about tuition costs. 5 courses with us will cost you $21,250. This is under the cap. 6 courses, however, will exceed the tuition cap. The cost for 6 courses is $25,500. Johns Hopkins is a yellow ribbon school. How yellow ribbon works at Johns Hopkins is that it is applied once the tuition cap is exceeded, and if it is exceeded, qualifying students can receive up to $1,000 a year. It's awarded on a first-come, first-served basis. Coming this fall, there are some changes regarding how the VA will calculate the housing allowance for Chapter 33 recipients. Basic housing allowance, your BAH, will be calculated using the zip code for your on-site classes, i.e. the physical location of the classroom utilized. So just FYI. We're also happy to announce that Hopkins offers various networking opportunities for our veteran students. Current students, there is an online networking group via LinkedIn. Simply search the Johns Hopkins University Veterans Connection Group, or Johns Hopkins Veterans, and you should be able to locate that. For alumni, we actually have a networking group through our Alumni Affinity office, and you can find information on the alumni website for Johns Hopkins, alumni.jhu.edu. And then the full URL is alumni.jhu.edu/affinitygroups/veterans. Some great information there. Students who are educated outside of the U.S. do have some additional admissions requirements. They must submit an international credit evaluation of any credit earned at non-U.S. institutions. We prefer that they go through WES, who is a third-party credit evaluation service, and the credit evaluation that you want to request is called the ICAP. They also must provide proof of English proficiency via, for example, qualifying scores on a TOEFL exam. Unfortunately, international students studying on an F1 student visa are not eligible to enroll in our online and part-time graduate programs, as our registrar's office can no longer issue these students an I-20. The I-20 is a form necessary for maintaining an F1 student visa. It confirms the location of a student's classes and that the student is indeed taking an in-person class at the university. Because we are migrating more and more of our coursework online at the request of our students, we actually are not confident that we have enough on-site coursework for these students to meet their residency requirements. International students, however, are permitted to study with us online from their home country. Next steps and important dates. So if you are interested in studying with us, the first step is to submit your application for admissions. You can do this by visiting the URL on your screen, ep.jhu.edu/apply. Next, you'll need to submit your academic transcripts and your professional resume. We have rolling admissions for our online and part-time programs, and it typically takes us 4 to 6 weeks from the time that we receive a student's completed application. So that's their online application, their transcripts, their resume. 4 to 6 weeks from when we receive that entire package to review that package and then issue that student a decision letter. So with that timeline in mind, here are some important dates. Summer registration actually opened on March the 22nd, and the summer term begins on Monday. So it is a little too late to study with us in the summer term. However, the fall registration does open July 5th, and the fall term begins August the 27th. So you have tons of time to submit your documents for the fall. I would recommend that you submit your application as soon as possible, ideally by June 15th, if possible. And so that is the end of our prepared portion of this presentation. Now I'm happy to open it up to answer some of your questions. Again, the way that you can ask myself or Dr. Flanagan a question is simply by typing it into the control tab, or excuse me, the questions tab on your control panel. If you're joining us via a laptop or a desktop, you can submit your questions. If you're joining us via a phone or a tablet, by simply just selecting the question mark. And that'll open up the question section. So we have tons of time here, 15 minutes. Happy to answer any of your questions. Dave?
And this is actually the next question here. As I see, yes, you do need official transcripts from there, and that's generally what we see as the longest delay is having your school that you attended send those official transcripts.
All right. Thank you, Dave. How long does it generally take to hear back from admissions? Okay, so I talked about this a little bit 2 slides ago. In that our average turnaround time is 4 to 6 weeks. So once you have submitted your entire application package, so you submitted your online application, you've emailed us a copy of your professional resume, you've contacted your schools and had them send over an official copy of your transcripts. Once we receive that entire package, it takes us on average 4 to 6 weeks to review that package and to issue a student a decision letter. I said earlier that I encourage you to submit your application materials by June the 15th. And the reason why is fall is a very busy time for us. We do have a lot of students who begin in the fall. And so you want to submit your application as soon as possible so that they can give you, a faster turnaround time. All right, Dave, question about tracks. My profession is currently in power systems engineering, power distribution, transmissions. Is there courses offered, related to this?
Yes, probably the electrical engineering program would probably be applicable, I'm guessing, for electives. So back, remember when we talked about the 10 course program. So assume you did the project as one. So the project is one. Your core classes are 6. So that leaves you with 3 electives. So you could take those electives out of any other program as well, provided two requirements. One is that it's a graduate program, so now it's a 600 level or above class, because sometimes we'll have listed some other undergraduate type courses, and you can tell by the numbers. So that's the lower level numbers, 200 or 400 level, and so those are generally prerequisites for other classes. So it has to be a graduate program, and then you have to also meet the prerequisites for that class. Once you're good to go for those two, then yeah, absolutely, you could take those other electives or classes as your electives from other Johns Hopkins programs.
All
And
right.
I think that's similar to someone also talked about space systems engineering track. Yes, um, that's a newer program that's kind of born out of the systems engineering program, where it's more focused on space. But yes, if there is a couple of different electives um, that you would like to take from there, yeah, we do some cross pollination with our classes for electives.
All right, wonderful. Dave, do you need a letter of recommendation in the application?
So sometimes yes. So generally, again, back to the typical student with the above 3.0 in like a STEM, good grades, plenty of experience. Sure, that's you look at it and that'll get you through. It's ones where I will usually ask for it if you've got some lower than sort of those grades, but there's also possibly some extenuating circumstances, and there's also a thing called a statement of purpose that I think you can send in to be able to explain that. Um, so between that, or if you're really young, so I know there's some young as in the workplace, young. So I know there's some organizations that require their newly out of school, employees to immediately enroll in a program. Now that kind of is counter to the under or more than a year professional experience. So generally, I will ask for a letter of recommendation. Again, it's a little bit more information just to make sure that the employer also understands also as part of the application sort of process.
All right. This attendee has questions about whether or not we have any statistics regarding how many students are accepted into PhD programs after completing this program.
Not, no, we don't have any statistics. Johns Hopkins does not have any systems engineering doctorate programs as of yet. So yeah, you would look at a couple other different programs. I'm not sure of how many are accepted or not. I will say that our program, and again, in the systems engineering sort of professional organizations that we're part of, our program is regarded pretty highly. Not to be biased, but it is. So it it yeah. So I would say if you went through the program and if you come out of it, and we like to say it's a practitioner sort of experience that we give you, so that we can not only give you the materials and you can actually apply it to your employer, the next day, but also, yeah, be fairly competitive for a PhD program, which I would imagine also looks at a sort of whole person. But sort of a long-winded answer, no, we don't have any statistics. I'm not sure if any uh, organization does either, for their own program there.
I just want to answer a question real quick. An attendee had questions about how can you submit a letter of recommendations for your application. Yes, you can have your supervisor send a letter. You know, electronically if you would like. You have them email admissions directly, and you can find that contact information on our website. Again, ep.jhu.edu ep.jhu.edu, and then about us, and then contact us is where you would find that information. We have tons of great questions here. I just want to give everyone a heads up. We have about 7 minutes left. If we do not address your question during the session, we will follow up with you via email. So just FYI. How flexible, Dave, question for you. How flexible are professors in working with online students for additional information on understanding concepts?
We are. So for online students, it's not like we just leave you alone and you figure it out by yourself. It's called asynchronous learning. So you listen to lectures. We do have a weekly office hours session where that's a synchronous time for everyone to come together. The instructor is there to be able to answer any questions, pretty much about anything. And then always you can make appointments during the week to be able to work with your instructor.
Okay, wonderful. The student has a great question. Are international admissions requirements applicable for students from Puerto Rico? That is an excellent question, as it is, it is a U.S. territory. So let me research that and follow up with you via email. All right. Dave, this question has to do how would you distinguish between, study and career opportunities from the master's in systems engineering with a concentration in cyber versus the master's degree in computer science with the, concentration in systems? And Dave, it's depending on the program that you choose is what the majority share of your coursework will be. So correct? If you want more systems engineering, you would enroll in systems engineering.
Yep, I would say, the difference between a system engineering and a computer science degree, totally, I'd say a lot different. I wouldn't say totally different, but a lot different, depending on what you're looking for in terms of your career. Generally, your systems engineer is going to be a little at the higher level, maybe up in the sort of the engineering or the integration, the management. Computer science may be a little bit more down in the detailed. Again, depending on what projects and all that, down in the detailed sort of technical details in development. So I think it's equally good. I think it just depends on, take a look at your organization, take a look at what kind of skills, what kind of career path you're looking for. That's probably a good conversation with your employer to be able to help you also navigate which is best for you.
All right. How often are courses offered? Do people have any issues where courses are only offered one semester but are a prereq for another course offered only during the same semester, et cetera?
Yeah, good question. So all those core classes, they're offered every semester. Really, there's not a lot of dependencies for those. For all of those core classes, basically your introductory classes are your prereqs. Where it gets a little tricky maybe in some of those more advanced type of courses where like a modeling and simulation, there's sort of two parts. One is your foundations and your next one is sort of your advanced topics. Those aren't offered as much, maybe like once a year, just because of demand. And always we look at everything where it's if you've got more demands, we open more sections during that same semester. If we start to see a trend, we may ask the instructor to also add additional semesters. But generally, it's about once every semester. Summer is a little lighter, just because instructors also have to go on vacation and do fun stuff as well. And it's just a little lighter in terms of availability. But for online, yeah, it's pretty much all there.
All right. Um, there used to be a biomedical systems track. Is that no longer the case?
Yes, that is not the case. We did have a biomedical focus area, and now we've decided to go away from that. So if you're interested in the applied biomedical engineering program, we would refer you to them. Generally, when we had the focus area, that program also requested they be accepted to their standards of that program to be enrolled within our focus area. So now that we've kind of looked at that, we decided as a group there to be able to just shift that over to the applied biomedical engineering program.
All right. Um, okay, so I'll answer this question really quickly. There is no difference in coursework between the Master of Science in Engineering and the Master of Science. They are the same program. It's the MSc is available only to students who have an ABET accredited undergraduate degree. And Dave, is there in the workplace, is there really a difference in kind of marketability between the two
No,
masters?
no, not that I've seen.
Okay. All right. Last question. Um, well, second to last question. Can you switch between virtual, live, and online learning?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
Just enroll in whatever class, in whatever format that you desire / is available that particular semester. Um, for online classes, do lectures go up once a week?
Yes. So generally, instructors will release one module at a time. So a module is maybe once a week. For my class, I put them all up there, and the module is either 1 or 2 weeks. So it just depends on the instructor. But yeah, generally it's one week. That's like about 3 lectures. So anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes, an assignment, some quizzes, some discussions, some textbook reading. Eventually, you'll get to a team project, pretty much for all classes, because that's kind of what systems engineering does. And then midterm, final project. It depends on the instructor on what sort of mix, but that's generally what our courses look like.
All right. All right. Well, Dave, thank you so much. We are at time, and we have actually, I believe, answered all of the questions. So anyway, I just want to say again, thank you everyone for your time this evening. Thank you so much for joining us and for your interest in our programs. Dave, thank you so much for your time and for all this great information.
All right. Well, great. Thanks for all the good questions, and hopefully we'll see you soon in the program.